Here's the magic countdown. I'm so glad nobody can hear us during this
Oh
part.
gosh, I know.
Ooh,
2 seconds.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Welcome into the Storycraft Cafe. I am your host, Hank Garner, and beside me for this entire hashtag Indie Summer campaign, Abby Matthews. Today, we are so excited to welcome Craig Martelle to the show to the show with us. There's me and Craig in Las Vegas this past November. That's
Yeah.
I had a picture that I could brag about, so I popped it up there. Oh, if you've been with us for this past 8 weeks, we have talked about editing and polishing that manuscript. We've talked about covers and market research. We've talked about jacket copy that sells your book. We've talked about formatting. We've talked about arcs and distribution channels, direct sales, and all of the different ways that you can connect with your readers. We talked about building author websites. We talked about newsletters and how to really cultivate that relationship with your readers. And today, finishing out week 8 of hashtag Indie Summer, Craig Martelle. If you have been in the indie publishing space for any amount of time, you probably bumped into Craig, or you have taken some of Craig's advice either directly from him or from a third party who then had absorbed advice from Craig, from $20 to $50K to 20 books Vegas and all around the world. To now, you have another indie author group that you have started, Craig, and we're just so happy to have you with us here today. Author of 200 some odd books with a brand new series launching very soon. Craig, welcome to the show.
I love you guys. We had such a great conversation ahead of time. I'm like, I'm out of Schlitz. I don't have anything left. That was the best of my funny lines. So it was Abby and Hank. Thank you for having me on again. I appreciate it. I think this is the third or fourth time I've been on your show, Hank. And what are you up to now, man? Are you at like 2,000 shows or 1,500?
Over 2,000 shows.
Over 2,000. Most excellent.
We retired Author Stories about 3 years ago and kind of folded over into the Storycraft Cafe, which is what we're doing now. Really same format, same talk about publishing and writing and all of that. But over 2,000 shows now for 12, 13 years, I guess. So we've seen a lot in publishing in that, little over a decade.
There's a lot of changes is what you mean. I've been doing the 5-minute focus videos I just did episode 1,150 today.
Incredible.
I started that as soon as the pandemic hit. I knew people were going to be in a lot of pain and anguish and need an outlet. So I did an hour a day podcast when starting from March or April, and it was just killing me. It was taking so much time. And so I converted, and also people were, once they started finding their pace and something they could do, they needed that time back. So I moved into a 5-minute format in August of 2020. And here we are, still August. So 5 years later, now 1,150 episodes of 5-minute focus. And that's going really well. That's for my successful indie author group that I run. I also run the International Association of Science Fiction and Fantasy Authors. We're right toward the end. Well, this is recorded, so we're right towards the end of the monthly promotion, and this is all sci-fi and fantasy. Usually, we pick a topic: urban fantasy or fantasy novels, fantasy short stories, things like that. But this is everything. So this is the big month. We have like 2 full pages of titles that people put out. So the tagline is "Find your next favorite SFF author right here." And you can look through, and there's 50, 60 titles that people have put free, 99 cents, all the way up to $2.99. And so that's a separate group, but I encourage all of them to go over to the SIA group, the Successful Indie Author Group. We have a super cool logo, thanks to Kara Halverson. Hopefully you can see that.
I love it.
SIA with a pen. Oh man, so nice.
Yeah.
So we've got some logo stuff, and it's going very, very well. I appreciate what everybody's doing for everyone else, because as I've always said, a rising tide lifts all boats. We are not in this separately. We're in this together. We have to stick together. We can learn from each other. We're not going to be pirating anybody else's readers. There's none of that. Readers can read so much faster than we can write. Even as many books as I have, as quick as I generally write. We all win together, and that's a concept that indies have well over top of trad, because trad, it was always kind of cutthroat. And there's one contract. Let's see who gets it. And I think they perpetuated that when they didn't have to. You get better authors if you give them motivation to win, as opposed to ready to crush them when they lose. In the indie author community, you only lose if you don't learn and you don't keep moving.
Yeah. I learned pretty quickly, Craig, when I started writing and publishing in 2013, that we're not competing with each other. We're all competing with Netflix and YouTube and Facebook and all of the things that want to pull on people's attention. As a matter of fact, if I write a book that gets someone who hasn't really been a reader for a while and they get excited about what I write, they're more likely to go look for another book like that and then to discover another author. And we've actually then helped another author instead of, this scarcity mindset is what's killing everybody. It's not me against you. It's the both of us against all the other things that are pulling for people's attention.
Yes, huge shout out and kudos to anybody who can convert somebody into a reader.
Yes.
And that is, we all win with that. You take a gamer who just got tired of gaming and their thumb paralysis.
Right.
Hey, get a book and look at it, read it and enjoy it. It's all up here anyway. You're just feeding through the eye holes into your brain. So, oh my God, I'm killing Abby. She's yelling. Oh my God. Like I said, all my best stuff was before we went live. Man. Oh, geez.
Oh, that's so funny. So
we're talking about launch plan.
Yes. So right before we went live, you were telling us about this new series that you have coming out and about this revelation, maybe a strong word, but you did something revelatory. You asked your readers what they would like from you. So, and I think this is worth touching on before we get into launch plans, because before you launch a book, are you launching the correct book? And I think this is super important, is that now as you're launching this new series, there are people out there that want this because you asked them. Could you kind of just recap that for the audience and tell us about kind of what got you to this point with this particular series?
Oh, you bet. I've got something like 25 different series, and most of them are finished. I finished series. So I'm not hanging the readers out there. I finished one series like 8 years after I started it. It was a 3-book series and went for 3 books for a long time. And I finished that this year. I did the 4th book, wrote it last year, got it tweaked up, got it ready, and launched it this year. And of course, it's finding readers incrementally, even though so many people read the first 3 books. So getting those people back into the fold to read that 4th book, and many other books that I've done. And my thriller series, which was supposed to keep going in perpetuity, the readership was dropping off more and more, even though I think the books were getting better. I guarantee they were getting better, but they kind of built on each other in such a way, even though I tried to make them standalones. Because thrillers, you look at Lee Child, you look at James Patterson and his Alex Cross series, and you can pick up any Alex Cross book and read it. You don't need to go back to the first ones. And mine, it kind of benefited you if you went back and read, and it was up to the 8th book. So that's asking an awful lot of a commitment from people to go back. Oh, hey, by the way, go buy the first book so you can buy the 8th book too. And it wasn't bringing in the revenue it needed to. So I did a survey monkey survey, because I still had my fully paid membership. And I asked my readership. I have some 17,000 on my newsletter. So I asked them, hey, what do you want to see more of? And I picked all of my genres, and I love writing all the genres. So it really wasn't oh my God, I hope I don't have to prostitute myself by going back to thrillers or going writing military romance. Oh my God, I don't want to write any more of those. And no, that's it. I put the genres that I enjoy writing, and there it was. By a margin of 4-1, they wanted more military sci-fi, which I had an idea for a series, which I had idea for a bunch of series, because that's what happens when you write. You write one book, you get ideas for 4 more. So if you write 200 books, guess how many ideas for stories you have? Anyway, here I am. And military sci-fi, I can do that. So I contacted my friend Chris Callis, who does military covers, military sci-fi, like nobody's business. What you see behind me is a cover from Tom Edwards, who is also an all-star military sci-fi cover artist. And he's done so many covers for me. Chris had just moved, and I'm like, let me give Chris some work. And he has hit it out of the park. Those series, I've got the first 6 covers done, and I don't launch the first book until next month, September 14th. So because I started this process 9 months ago. For normal people who don't write a book a month, this is probably a multi-year process to finish series, be done, not have anything else in your queue to be written. I would like to write some other books, but I don't have to. I have one short story that I have to write, a short story. Okay, I can write those in a day or 2. But this series. So I am a third of the way through book 5 on this series. 5. I got to hold it in front of me so it doesn't disappear. Like, no fingers. So book 5, and the first book doesn't launch for 3 weeks. So I'm going to have first 5 books written. So I'm launching a book a month just because I can, and they're already done, edited, proofread. They're through the QC process. Actually, 2 of them are already available on audio on Audible, and 3 of the paperbacks are already, because they're done. They're sitting there. I'm like, since there's no real pre-order for paperbacks, you put it up and they just approve it on that date. It's not really a pre-order. So I just let them go live. If somebody wants to buy a paper, and I move the price up because I really don't want them buying the paperback first. If they can read the ebook and they read it in Kindle Unlimited. I'm exclusive to Amazon and almost all my stuff. So backing up, I put all of this stuff in process. And I've had great success writing these books, generally getting a book done in a 4-week period and getting it to my editor. She gets it back in 2 weeks, proofed and stuff. And within 2 months of when I start the book, it is done, dusted, ready to go. Paperback's already live. How can you beat that? So for a launch plan, it starts with the first book. And since I've got so many books done already, I just put the first book on pre-order for 99 cents. That the efficacy of that has waxed and waned. Sometimes it works better than other times. My Battleship Leviathan was absolutely momentous as a 99-cent pre-order, and it's still at 99 cents. The first book in that 6-book series, I think we're up to, I want to say 11,000, 12,000 reviews on a 6-book series, with the first book having some 4,200 reviews. I think that first book sold and equivalent page reads maybe 50,000 copies. So it worked extremely well. After that, it tapered off the efficacy of a 99-cent pre-order. However, what I'm seeing nowadays, there's enough competition in the military sci-fi space that in order to get eyeballs on it, it helps to discount it in a way that I can use paid promotional newsletters, even like BookBub, books, new releases for less. Okay, that's an expensive promo that usually doesn't pay off. However, that's a readership. All they have to do is look at this stunning cover, great blurb that is converting, and get them into that first book. And the next 5 are on pre-order, and the next 3 covers are ordered. By the time that book goes live, I might have all 9 on pre-order. So and I'm going to kick those down the calendar a little bit, like 2 months in between on 7, 8, and 9. So I'm not putting so much pressure on myself to write them, because I've got a medical thriller I need to write in December and January with my son's father-in-law, who is a world-renowned surgeon. So it's a great synergy, since I'll be down there in Australia with them for the winter, which is their summer. And I'll have access to him for as much as I need for his expertise to add credibility to the story. And yeah, we've already got a great idea for it. So anyway, that kick those down the road, 2 months. The covers are eye popping, I think, and that gets a personal look. People don't judge a book by a cover, but they sure as hell click on it to take a look at the blurb. The blurb is what sells your book. So I've worked the blurbs and I've had to rework the blurbs. So it's not one and done. It's not like, oh, Craig Martelle's got 200 books. He writes a blurb and it's gold. No. Yeah. There's trial and error. No matter who you are, there's a little bit of trial and error.
Sure.
The good news is I've had the books on pre-order long enough that I'm getting that feedback of, oh man, okay, I can see. I've got the first book. I've got a good number of pre-orders. Books 2 through 6, I pretty much have a very comparable number of pre-orders. So the blurbs are working. And also that says I got some loyal readers who are willing to buy anything that I write. And that is great to see, because it says they trust that the book I'm putting out is going to be good. It's like when Michael Conley, I saw him, new book coming. That was the covers, like white text on black. They didn't even have a title for it. And it was ranked like 1,000 in the Amazon store on pre-orders. Right. There was no blurb. Hey, new book coming from Michael Conley next year.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. You're going to love it. All right, great. Cool. What's it about?
Yeah. Does it matter?
We don't even know that. Exactly. It doesn't matter, because we trust it's going to be a good book because it's Michael Conley. And I've got a small but very loyal group of readers that will buy anything that you write, because I know it's going to be good. And I want those 99-cent buyers to say the same thing. And free, I'm not a big fan of perma-free, keeping it free for forever, because there's just so many free books out there that it gets lost. And I don't want it to get lost, even though they're getting a constant diet via social media of my covers, because they are such heavy hitters. And the book itself, that first book will get ranked because of the 99 cents. So I think 99 cent might come back into vogue, but I'm spending a couple $1,000s on paid promotional newsletters in order to get that book in front of every eyeball that reads science fiction and fantasy, every single one of them. I want them all. And then they can make a decision, at least click over and take a look at the blurb and say, yes, this is something I want to read. Yes, I do like Halo. I do like the Master Chief. And if that's the answer, then you're going to like these books. I'm not saying this is better than what you might read on a Halo novel, even though I've read some of them and they're not as good as the game itself if you are very proficient at the game. I love the movies. I love the serial of Halo. But and many gamers didn't. Oh, this didn't really relate to the. Piggybacking off that, it gets the eyeballs that I'm looking for. Because if you read the Halo books, this is going to scratch that itch. This is going to hopefully get you into a series where, hey, you can read it. If you got a Kindle Unlimited subscription, you can read all the books. There you go, at no additional cost. So the launch plan, I've got a 2-week-long launch plan, and these paid promotional newsletters like New Release for Less, like BookBub's pre-order thing, that only cost me like $8, but that's because I'm well over 1,000 followers on Facebook on BookBub, and so you've got to hit that magic number of 1,000 before you can partake of some of these. But so once again, it's good to be renowned in the industry, so you do have those kinds of numbers where you can. Some of the paid newsletters, you need to have a certain number of reviews on the book. However, if you're Craig Martelle with 60 to 70,000 Amazon reviews with an average of, I think, 4.6, your new book, they're going to trust that it's okay. So I was able to get some paid newsletters that required a minimum number of reviews, get that waived because I'm me. And so you got to establish yourself from the outset. If you get bad reviews on your first book, so what? I've got bad reviews on all my books, but I've got a way more good reviews. So you don't let that get you down. Use the good stuff to leverage to get more good stuff. As I tell authors, do more of what works. Okay, that may seem pretty obvious, but when marketing and running ads, that ad's working. Do more of that. Well, I don't know why it's working. Well, do more of that and then figure out what of that actually was working. Because when you, I asked a friend of mine, he's running Amazon ads, and he had 3 ads with trial 1, trial 2, and trial 3. I said, what's different between them? He said, nothing. He said, they're all identical. They're just dupes of one another. It's just, I want to see which ones, and I'll do whichever one starts resonating, getting more impressions. I'll just add money to that and I'll kill the other 2. Like, well, that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of crazy, but what we've seen from Amazon's algorithm is sometimes you just don't know, and it doesn't know either. But as soon as it starts getting traction, and that's just the right eyeballs seeing the cover, go do more of that. It's kind of crazy. And don't make marketing harder than it is. And we had a great conversation about that before we went live. Sorry, we didn't record that, but there were some things there that we didn't want recorded because Craig swears and he's just casually talking. But the marketing and advertising, especially as an author, if you're writing, and all you want to do is write, guess what? Writing is so much sweeter if you're doing some of the other things too that you have to be a professional author. You need to do marketing, you need to do advertising, you need to promote your stuff, you need to buy covers, you need to argue with cover artists to make sure your covers are right for your genre. You need to get the red lines back from your editor and look at it and say, geez, do I suck this bad? Yes, you do. Fix it and suck less. I mean,
everybody does.
Yeah, everybody does. My first book, I sent it in. I'm like, there might be 2 or 3 errors, thousands of corrections. I'm like, okay, I might have missed this because first off, I don't do commas right. I do now, but that's like 200 books worth of redlining, and now I get commas right, and I still get, hey, move this comma. You know what? Readers don't care about commas. I have never, ever gotten a comment from a reader saying, wow, your commas were way off. No, never. 60 to 70,000 reviews, and not one of them is about commas.
Yeah, and I've learned when you get edits back, when it's stuff like that, I just accept, and just go. It's not worth, okay, learn what I can from it and just keep, just churn through them. Okay, whatever,
I scroll super fast through it. I'm looking for word changes, where maybe a rewording of something or moving a sentence. But if I see just an underline of a letter or a comma or a capital, slide on by. I fix the ones and then accept all. I try not to spend more than 15 minutes reviewing that manuscript after I get it back from my editor. I did get one a few months ago that came back, and it took me like 3 hours going through it, and that was extremely painful because there was a lot of stuff that didn't work for me, and so it was just a reorientation of what I was looking for from the edits, and I got back on track. But 3 hours, that's crap. Who takes 3 hours to fix a manuscript after you get it back from the editor? You got to write better in the first place. That's what I would tell an author. I mean, who's got time to rewrite stuff? My God, that's a waste of time. When you can be writing a whole new book. Come on, people.
Right. Let's add just a touch of context. If someone is listening and they say, my goodness, 200 books, and Craig is talking about publishing entire series, and he's got this whole plan, and he's got back catalog and all of that. I think some, or at least some people, come to writing and they think, I have a story that I would like to tell. And like you said, the more you write, the more ideas get generated. And that is 100% true. One of the most trite questions that I ever hear in an author interview is, where do you get your ideas from? Like, that is lame. If you've ever written anything, ideas are the easy part. It's executing on those and then publishing, and all that is the difficult part. Finding ideas is not the hard part. But so people may come in and they're like, well, I have a book that I would like to write. And then Craig is over here publishing 200 books, and he's got a year-long plan, and he's, all of this. How do you go from that newbie author who just has a story they want to tell to then start thinking about being a professional publishing author, an indie author who the reality of the world we're living in? If you're going to be an indie author, you need to be publishing and republishing and building an author career, and not just focused on that book. How do you adjust your mindset, your thinking from point A to successful indie author?
I've worked with a lot of authors over the last 10 years, and for somebody new, I can be intimidating. You're writing a book a month. Oh my God, you're doing this. Your first draft is 99% clean. Oh my God, I can't do that. My very first book, my first draft was not 99% clean. It was horrible. Right. It was a piece of garbage. Good story, but it lacked because the writing process is not intuitive. I think humans are natural storytellers, but writing it down is a completely different skill. So you have to learn that. And the best way to learn that is you practice, which means you write. As an author, you get paid for your practice. So your first book, don't keep rewriting the same book. Fix it enough and get it out there. Because when you have people say, oh my God, I love this story. It spoke to me. I was still thinking about this. That's addictive. And that's what leads you to, oh, people ask questions. Well, what about this? What about this? Because you have tendrils in your story that are going to go unanswered. No matter how complete you try to write it, there's still going to be opportunity for other stories from that one. And it's addictive. And when you write, it can be therapeutic. It's where I go to escape. Okay, I'm on grand jury duty, and it sucks. It sucks a lot. They're seeing how horrible people can be to each other, and horrible. I mean, these are catastrophic and cataclysmic kind of attacks on an individual psyche, especially those in the grand jury. So, what do you do to escape?
It's good fodder for a thriller writer, though. Just saying, pay attention horrible. Wherever you are.
It's writing that stuff would drive me into a hole. So no, it is out there already in other venues. Sure. I'm not writing any of that stuff.
Understood.
So military sci-fi, it's great. I can disappear the day after the jury ended because they ended it early because we powered through the second day. And I had my flight for the next day already at 7 p.m. So what am I going to do? 7,000 words I wrote that next day because I escaped. And when I write, I get to escape into this other world. I get to do these other fantastic things. I get to see these alien creatures. What a world where we can do that. And it helps soften that blow of things I'd heard over the previous 2 days. That's what you get to do as a writer. You get to disappear into your own world. You don't have to live in the reality of today. Well, you have to, but imagine if you can get away for an hour or two or even 10 minutes and disappear into something that's fruitful, that's productive, that's in your own mind where you get to win. You define the parameters and then you can set yourself up to win. And that's writing. If you have that one story you want to tell, hey, this is a memoir I want to write as a testament to my old man, great, write it. Just don't expect to make any money off it. And then you're great. If you sell a few copies, fine. But if you want to be a professional author, you need to write more than one book. The era of one and done is done. It's past. You have to incrementally build your readership. Now, over the last 10 years, I've worked with a lot of authors, and I've met quite a few where their first book was an absolute home run. One person, first book sold 250,000 copies in the first month. 5 books later, this individual is no longer writing because couldn't sell another book after that first one. Second one sold a few books, third, fourth, fifth, didn't sell any at all. So yeah, because they didn't know what they did right. I think that if you work for it, you understand very well what you're doing right, so you can do more of it. If you just say, hey, I'm a great writer, I'm a great storyteller, everybody's going to love this next book, and they don't, how do you fix it? And they couldn't. So only one out of that bunch where the first book was a home run, I know is now extremely successful, but they had a big dip first before they got back into it and said, okay, yeah, let me do, and now outstanding author, outstanding. Love his stuff.
So we have a situation where you are at the enviable spot where you're going to launch a new series and you have a big list of people that you can ask, what would you like to see from me? When people are just starting off, they don't have the luxury of having a built-in readership. So if you were to rewind back to your beginning as an author, but place that guy in 2025 where we have the circumstances that we have now with publishing. How would you launch a new series? Because that's what a lot of people are wondering. Okay, that's wonderful that Craig has all of this to leverage, but I don't have any of that. So what does a new author do?
You do, because social media today compared to 10 years ago is so much more refined. Groups like Successful Indie Author. So what you do as a new author, you do what I did 10 years ago without the additional flailing, wailing, and gnashing of teeth. So whatever you write, this is your first book. You have exactly one almost book in a new genre. Well, what's that genre? The first book I wrote was post-apocalyptic because, hey, that's what I've been thinking about my whole life. What happens if? What if? What if? What if? All right, great. So I got in with the post-apoc community. Hey, what's going on, guys? Just seeing how they're writing and seeing what's going on, seeing what the authors are doing, seeing what the covers look like. And my first one, I didn't know that. I didn't know it until after I published that first book. It's like, okay, my cover's not on target. And I ran my first ad. And girls aged 13 to 17 were clicking on my ad because the title was It's Not Enough to Just Exist. So anyway, if you want to write a book for teen girls, that's a great title. If you want to write a book that's post-apocalyptic, survival in Alaska, that's not a great title. So we changed the title to End Times Alaska because you got to throw Alaska in the title if it's in Alaska because Alaska stuff sells and it still sells. So the book made all those changes and put it back out there. But how would I have known if I hadn't published it in the first place? You don't. So you've got to get something out there because if I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps, and I know my military analogies always bug a certain sector of listeners, but artillery, you just point the tube wherever you want and shoot. You know what? Wherever it hits, you can deviate from that for your next shot. And get closer to your target. That's what you're doing with your book. You think it's this, but it may not be. Like I wrote a book, hey, this is a vigilante justice. And people are like, no, it's romantic suspense. I'm like, what? I don't write romance. That's what this book reads like. Okay. Do you read romantic suspense? Yes. And this book's read like one. Okay. So I marketed it that way. I got lambasted. So I stopped marketing it that way. And it's still, my readership for that book is still women for thrillers, as opposed to men who might read a James Patterson book or one of those big name thriller authors. So learn. How else do you know unless you get it out there? So if you've got no book, soon to be one book, whatever you think the genre is, get with those authors, other authors, especially indie authors, and just ask them, hey, do you have any of your beta readers or proofreaders who might take a look at the first few chapters and tell me if I'm on track? And almost all of them will say, yes, I might have one or two. I'll ask them. And if you don't know, input from 3 or 4 people is going to be worth its weight in gold. And yes, some people may be off track. However, if the authors that you contact that are in your genre, and I'm not talking, hey, you write thrillers, contact JP. No, don't do that. Contact authors that you find that have a few books published. Their first book has 100 reviews. Their second book has 20. All right, ask them. They might have a reader who's looking for good stuff. And what you'll find is that some readers will want to rewrite your book. Okay, that's okay. You just say thank you for your input and ignore all of it. But some of them honestly want to help. And they'll tell you that, oh, geez, this is taking people down the wrong way. This one's good. I really want to find out what happens to this character on this, doing this. This one, okay, world building is a little light. Great feedback. I can work with that. And that's all it is. Nowadays, you can find comparable authors at the same place of their journey, maybe just a little bit in front of you. Contact them and see what's up. Join their reader groups and read some of their stuff. And don't give feedback like, hey, I'm an author too. Here, I think you're missing out. No, don't be a dick. Can I say that on this podcast?
It's fine.
You just be there, be present. And if they ask for, Hey, anybody looking at something? Hey, what do you think of this cover? Hey, I like it. It speaks to me. Yes, it says it's a thriller, whatever it might be. But that's how you do it nowadays compared to when I started. I had no clue. I just published a book that wasn't right, even though it was, because actually that book I licensed to a traditional publishing house, and since then it's become an all-world bestseller. The exact same book that I sold 53 copies of, and I think 50 of those were to my dad. So the exact same book became an all-world bestseller later that year because TradPub.
How about that? I'm going to give you a real world scenario that is a different scenario than what we see in indie publishing a lot of times. So military sci-fi, thrillers, post-apocalyptic fantasy. These are big genres in indie publishing, romance, things like that. Our friend Abby here writes middle grade books, fantastic books. And she decided to indie publish because she was tired of the trad pub route. We'll just say that. We'll just say that. But her challenge is that she can't market directly to her readers because they're middle-aged kids. So, I know you've mentored a lot of writers and publishers through the years. Have you encountered this conundrum where you have a fantastic book, you have a marketing strategy, but you're having trouble getting past the gatekeepers that are not trad pub? They're the parents, they're the teachers. How would you approach that situation?
I have a series called Monster Case Files, which I wrote as a Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew kind of story, specifically for middle grade readers, starting 10, 11, 12. The way you market those is you market them to what are parents looking for their kids. And then another thing you can do is if you see middle grade award programs, submit that book for those, because that's how schools then market those books. That's how parent groups market the books. And that goes the same for children's books. If you have a children's book award winning, because then it gets mentioned somewhere where parents are. Write a great book, put it in the right reader's hands. And if the right reader is the person who buys it, but not necessarily reads it, then you got to put it in the right buyer's hand. And that's where do parents look? Well, they look at those awards because they don't know either. And you can't just search, hey, what are great middle grade books? Because there's a zillion of them out there, and they're really not contiguous with what they're looking for. But if they pull up the Scholastic Book Awards for this middle grade fantasy, middle grade science fiction, middle grade mystery, hey, guess what? There's only going to be 10 books on there. So now they're picking from 10. So now your odds went from 1 in a zillion to 1 in 10. I'm good with those odds. That's another way to go. But the thing is, how do you market those to parents? I have absolutely killer covers on those, and that guy no longer does covers because he got a much better job than being a cover designer, and absolute killer covers. And it's a massive tome. I put all 9 books under one cover because selling one was hard. Selling book 8 in the series was really, really hard because book 1 didn't sell that well. So putting them all under one cover, they sell just fine now. But I really have to push. I have to push hard towards those because when parents are looking for a middle grade, you have to play buzzword bingo in your blurb with the middle grade kind of terms. So a parent will see that right off. Oh, hey, they like the cover. The student doesn't have to like the cover. The cover is for the parent. So it has to be gripping in that regard. Monster Case Files. Okay, got monster in the title. And then what's the blurb say? And how does the blurb grab that parent and say, this is for your kid. He's going to love this. She's going to love this because it's got these cool things in it. So, and also, by the way, it's a Scholastic Book Award winner for middle grade. All right, there you go. So It's a challenge, and it's a long-term prospect. It's not something you're going to, hey, I'm publishing this middle grade next month. What do I do now? Well,
Yeah.
I hope you get sales next year. I mean, it's once again, are you in this as a professional for the long game? If the answer is yes, well, then not start doing that now. Look for those award programs and start looking at what parents like to get this for their kid.
I think that one thing you just said, Craig, is so important, not only for this, for Abby's particular situation that we were just kind of highlighting, but for authors, no matter where you are, it's a long game.
Yeah.
You know, if you remember, I know you remember, Craig, when the Kindle Gold Rush was happening, and people were getting in to see how much money they could make this month and next month, knowing that next quarter they would not be publishing at all. They were going to come in, make the money they could, and then they're off to, selling Ring doorbells or, whatever was making money at the time. They were not in it to be an author and a storyteller. They were in it because it was an opportunity to make a quick buck. That mindset is gone. Those opportunities are gone. It's, are you here to be a professional storyteller? And if so, that means certain things. And that's just the reality of it.
You got a question, Abby?
No, I'm just absorbing everything.
This is Sponge Abby you're seeing.
I'm like, yeah.
This is Sponge Abby.
Yeah.
One of the great stories of the heyday was Bella Forrest, which was a ghost written story, but the guy who owned that pen name was a master marketer. So according to court docs, because the lead ghostwriter sued the hell out of him because he kind of stiffed her, there was something like $30 million in the bank. That's after advertising costs, after 8 years of publishing.
Wow.
And she published a new book every 2 weeks, I think. The Bella Forrest name, and published it right to the top of the charts. So they were great books, great for the target audience, but $30 million in 8 years. And this is after he bought her a house in Portugal, the ghostwriter, because he wanted to keep her on board without really showing her what kind of money she was really making for him. And she sued, and I think she lost. So he took this money. He stopped. He's like, okay. Once it came out that, oh my God, this is all ghost. There is no Bella Forrest. Yeah. So what? There was no Frank Dixon, who wrote Hardy Boys. Guess what? There is no dude named Frank Dixon. So Franklin Dixon, I forget what his real name is, but it's like Doc Savage. Okay. A lot of people written those over the years, but they're still getting the product. But yeah, when you have a breakdown with your lead ghostwriter and you didn't pay them really what you should have, guess what? Things are going to go south in a hurry, and they did. But still, 30 million, like you said, you can make that. I mean, he could walk away and never do another thing and be perfectly fine for the rest of his life.
Right. So if we have someone who's got the mindset that they're in this for the long haul, they are building up a catalog that they will have the ability to market, remarket as the years go on, as trends change. They could change covers, they could change blurbs, whatever, to make sure that stays fresh. But they're getting ready to launch into this. What mindset should they go in? And I'm not even looking necessarily for the particulars of what you can do, because those things will change. We know that Amazon ads and Facebook ads come in and out of vogue, and the algorithms change, and we can explore all of that. But I think the more important thing to talk about right here is the mindset that you're going into this process with. I'm getting some feedback somewhere. I'm
not sure where that feedback is coming from. It's not here.
No, I didn't hear it. So I think you're okay.
I guess it's just on my end. Anyway, what would you say to those people who are getting ready to launch this first series, and maybe they're refreshing the KDP page, trying to see how many sales they're getting, and maybe it's not exactly what they hoped for in the beginning. How do they maintain that mindset and keep plugging away and moving forward?
how much are you learning? And this is what I'll ask new authors, because what they've learned by the time they finished their first book compared to when they started their first book is significant. And after they publish that book and start writing their second book, what did they learn? Well, you can write the second book a hell of a lot faster than you wrote that first book, and the third book, until you reach an equilibrium with speed, because now you've got speed, consistency, quality, and your third book and fifth book are going to be better than your first book, especially if you're listening to feedback that you're getting from folks who are in your genre. Don't ask a romance reader to read your military sci-fi novel and vice versa. You need people who read that genre, because they know what the expectations are. They know what deviates from the expectations. And until you know what those expectations are, don't deviate from them. So don't write your novel saying, I'm going to write this differently because I'm me and I'm better. No, you're not. Not until you're actually better do you get to say you're better. And then you have to still feed the readership, because even when you want to do something wildly different, understand you may lose your readers. Because I've written other books. Okay, I wrote all sci-fi until I wrote this other book. Oh, hey, that didn't sell. Guess what? Oh, I never wrote another book saying, but this is me. I sell books. No, you have a readership who's loyal to these kinds of books. And that's what TradPub is all about. Traditional publishing isn't the gatekeepers of, you don't write well enough to publish with us. No, they're gatekeepers for, we have a targeted marketing list that we know what they buy. So if you write this very narrow story that our readers will buy, then you're in. And so TradPub, gatekeepers, sure, gatekeepers for that list. They're not gatekeepers for quality of stories, for Pete's sake. And we've discovered that through how many quality indie authors are out there, and they've explored romantasy. Okay, yeah, well, TradPub had a bit of that, but look at the indies diving into that space and owning that space. No, you can't beat Rebecca Yarros. You can't beat $1 million marketing budgets and quality stories. Now, they're good stories, but still, Fourth Wing, great stories. Yes, I read that stuff too, because you read all of that stuff like we were talking about earlier. I think one of the greatest storytellers on the planet was Louis L'Amour. If you're not reading a Louis L'Amour book every now and then, you are not doing yourself any favors as a professional author. So you got to read these other stories and sharpen your storytelling game. And that's how you get better as an author, and how your fifth book needs so many fewer edits, needs no rewrites, maybe just to tweak a couple little things that you've been thinking of, get it to your editor, get it back and say, okay, yeah, that could have been worded better. Yeah, let's do it your way. No, this is fine. And there you go. I like 15 to 30 minutes for my review of my editor's edits before I send it to my proofreader. That's it. I check rewordings. I check comments, because she'll comment with, I don't understand this, or this isn't continuous with this, the continuity error. You said 3 up here, now it's 4. Okay, let me go and fix that. But that's it. I'm not wasting a whole lot of time, because I got the story right in the first place. Well, that happens after 200 books, 8 million, 9 million published words. You kind of get better at writing. So how do you get better at writing? Right. And you get paid for that. All them other books in between, people are buying those. I get money for them. That works well for me. I like money, because it allows me to live. The people who would say that money isn't the foundation of happiness, I tell you what, having money, it makes it a lot easier to be happy, because you don't have to worry about things like, how much is, which mustard should I buy at the grocery store, because the prices have gone up. Saying that, why do you want to spend the time, invest the time writing a book, and then not get paid for it? So you want to do the best job you can. And that takes a certain amount of effort, but mindset. Like, if you think you're the best author ever and you're not going to publish that first book until it's perfect, you're going to spend a lot of time and you're going to get no money. If the book's not published, you don't get paid. And that works for trad too. Try that with a trad. Hey, I got a trad contract. Great. $30,000 on a trad contract. You think that's pretty good. Well, you get a third up front. Your agent gets 10, 15% of that. So you got $10,000, of which you got $8,500. And that's for the year. You get it. Is $8,500 going to last you for a year? No, not quite. Not quite. That's the kind of money I'm going to make off my launch next month, let alone what I make the month after that and the month after that. So No, don't sell yourself short,
Yeah.
because and people aren't getting $30,000 contracts anymore. They're getting like 10,
Yeah.
and it's a 2-year cycle. You get a third of it now. You get a third of it when you finish the manuscript, and you get a third of it when you publish. And then you may get the second contract, even if they buy the first of a trilogy. If that first one doesn't sell, they're not buying the second or the third. So what the hell do you do then?
Yeah.
Exactly. So
And then
that's
you've
what I'm
got all this time bound up in this process that may or may not work. And then you got to start all over from scratch.
and at this, and you still have a day job because you can't live on
Right.
$3,300 for a year, or $8,500 if you won the lottery. So
Right.
why would you do that to yourself when,
But-
if you're smart enough to write a book, you're smart enough to do all of the other little things that you need to make the book successful, and
Yeah,
it's incremental over time.
And bragging rights at cocktail parties don't last forever. You can only play that card once or twice, and then you're the guy everybody avoids.
Yeah. Hey, he's got one book. Yeah, nice. Oh, my latest series. Yeah, I've got 25 series. My latest series is this.
Right.
What do you like to read? And then, oh yeah, I've got a series for that. I bet I got a series for that somewhere buried in the massive archive behind me.
Yeah. We got a comment from Beth just a minute ago. And I'm going to pop it up here, and then I want to preface this with a little context. Beth wants to know, do you work with the same editor as much as you can? And you've mentioned about getting better as a writer. Like once you've written 200 books, you naturally get better the more you do something. Especially when you get those edits back and you see the kinds of comments you're getting. Okay, well, next time when I'm writing, I'll be more careful with my commas, and I'll think about, phrasing things in a way that won't get me a comment from an editor. And we had Dean Wesley Smith on the show a couple months ago, and he was talking about that he doesn't take a lot of editorial from editors. Like when he finishes a book, he sends it, it's ready to go. Well, Dean has published something like 40,000 books. By that point, you ought to be good enough. So we hear comments like this from you, from Dean Wesley Smith, and a new author thinks, well, I don't need feedback from anybody. No, that's earned. So that's a little context that I think will go a long way. Is yes, your relationship with your editor grows because you get better. The editor understands you more, and it's just all part of the process of just doing and redoing over and over.
I use a copy editor only, and she corrects typos, if a grammar miscue. Now I write third person past, and I'll write first person past. So if I'm ever speaking in the present, it better be in dialogue. So she catches all of that, and I do work with the same editor over and over again. However, sometimes on a book, I am looking for a little bit different style, and I will send that to a different editor, a second editor, if you will, to take a look. However, I prefer readers. I want reader input. So I will send it to beta readers. I will pay proofreaders to read it, but give me a good idea of, what do you really think about this? Is there any place where you would stop reading because it was blasé or just started getting boring? Where did you want to know more and I didn't give you more? So certain leading questions of self-proclaimed beta readers, that actually is worth more than a second edit. And I don't use developmental editors. I've tried two, and both of them made me want to quit writing. I've sold over 1 million books, and both of them, because it's just the attack on my writing. And that's how I took it, that, oh my God, I can't be here. You need to rewrite this. You need to rewrite this. Fuck no, I ain't rewriting that. It works just fine. So there are so dev editors, absolutely not, because now I'm writing their book and I'm not writing my book. And for sentence structure and flow of the story, I think you can get comparable or even better quality feedback from beta readers than you can from a dev editor. And I'm sorry, nothing against the dev editors out there, but for me personally, there's no way in hell I will ever hire another dev editor when I know my writing is good. I know I have flow. I know the story is sound. And once I get it back from my copy editor, I know it is technically well placed. It's technically sound. So getting somebody else to say, this storyline, this element of the story, but I have my insider team and they give me that kind of input. They've read all my books, so they know where, and I'll let them know, hey, I'm trying a little bit different style here. What do you think of this? And they'll let me know, and they'll shoot me in the face if it doesn't resonate. And they've done that before. I have had to completely rewrite a book 2 days before it was due to be uploaded to Amazon, because I got it back and they're like, this doesn't work. This doesn't work at all. Because I tried for stylistically, I tried using some flashbacks, and it didn't resonate at all. They hated it. So I rewrote a whole book, 22 hours. I cut 10,000 words, added 11,000 words, and rewrote the whole damn thing. Now, the 10,000 words I cut as flashbacks, I put into a collection of short stories that we sold separately after the series was finished and made good money off that. Yeah.
Never
when you
waste a
cut,
word.
I was going to say, nary a word away.
Cut and paste. Don't be just deleting stuff. Don't be out of control, man. All words are good words. Just got to find the right audience at the right time.
That's right. NJ said quantity leads to quality. The more you do it, the better you get. And that's just, that just comes from just doing the thing over and over again, knowing that you're in it for the long haul. And so Craig, we've mentioned pre-orders several times. Are pre-orders kind of the way to launch a book now? Should you put or should you just go live with it? Like if you have a book that no one is expecting, like how do you handle a book launch? What are kind of the mechanics of getting this out to the world?
Well, if you're Brandon Sanderson, you announce it on Kickstarter and make $41 million. But if you're a normal person, you need to just, I would recommend that you just get it out there, and then you can leverage off that. It's like I mentioned with the artillery. That first round, you don't know where it's going to land. But once it does land, then you can deviate. My very first science fiction novel I wrote as a space adventure, Gamma World kind of story.
Yeah. And
I thought it was for me when I was a teenager, 12, 13-year-old boys. They're going to enjoy the story. Well, hell no. It was adults, but they all complained that, hey, this reads like a YA story, a young adult, even though I marketed it to adults because adults read and they buy books, because I marketed it to people like me, 50-year-old man who missed playing Gamma World when he was a teenager. Yeah. So that was the comments. Easy enough. Redid the covers for a young adult audience, labeled them as YA, and still sold them to adults. And sold, I think we sold, I'm at 130,000 copies of that series sold. So it worked. But you don't know unless you get it out there. And by getting it out there and marketing it as YA, because adult readers wanted YA because they wanted a clean story, not too much gore, not too much, no sex, no swearing, even though the very first word in the whole series is ass. So they got a glimpse, but this is going to be the worst that they hear. Yeah. And it was a cat. It was a cat saying that. He was calling his human an ass. And I think that worked very, very well for that series. They love the cat. Nothing like a talking cat to.
Well, cats can get away with stuff that the rest of us can't. We all know that.
Yeah. So the tagline on that series, thanks Michael Scott Earl for that, was a cat and his human minions. And I just left it at that. Yeah, people can read into it whatever they want, and that has sold remarkably well. People like talking cats. I mean, that's probably why Cozy Mysteries do so well when they have animals included as feline sleuths.
Sure.
But the opportunity, you don't know. Getting it out there, writing that next book, you'll find that writing that second book is easier than the first because you've got some of the mechanics down. Maybe you've got a more comfortable chair. Maybe you've got a better software program or better understanding of your software that you're using. Don't let software drive how you do stuff. Let it you have to be able to work with it, but it's still got to be comfortable for you. Because maybe you need a Mac, maybe you need a PC, maybe you need a free write, a book that doesn't have internet, and something like that. Whatever works best for you. Don't be saddled by, oh, hey, the big Craig Martelle uses Word, so I have to use Word. No, use whatever works for you, because you are the one who has to suffer through 40 to 80 hours of actual writing to get a book. Yeah. I mean, maybe you'll say, hey, I took hundreds of hours to write this book. Yeah. Did you? I mean, how often were you really just jamming away, typing on your keyboard for that book? Or how often were you just sitting there looking at it, researching, geez, when did they start using spittoons in saloons? And there you are 4 hours later, you got the answer. Well, it was after my book, so I guess I can't use that. Oh my God, dude. So yeah, 4 hours and you've got no words. So anyway, you can, there's certain books that you do have to research and get right. And then that's why I write military sci-fi way in the future, because now the thing that gets me, that I will grouse about, I will rant to your readership, is if somebody uses the term Marine. Well, Space Marine, they can do whatever they want. Space Marine, I'm going to call them specialist. No, don't do that. Because if you're using the term Marine, it is very, very specific to U.S. Marine Corps, of which I spent 21 years. So if you're going to use the term Marine, you're going to use other Marine terminology. You're going to call the floor a deck. You're going to call the wall a bulkhead. You're going to call the door a hatch. That's just what you do, because all you're going to do is alienate Marine readers and not gain any new readers. But if you get the Marine terminology right, well, you already put it in the title, so you're leveraging that. So why would you want to get that wrong? Well, I was just trying to leverage to get the readers because Marine sells. Yeah, cool. No.
Simplify.
That's what it is, man. You can only lose readers. You can't gain readers by trying to leverage, say, ooh, my characters are like Marines, and then they don't act like Marines. Shut up.
Yeah.
Call a gunny sergeant and see how that gets you. Look at Abby. I don't know. He's just screaming. He's angry. He's an angry man.
I married a Navy man, so
okay.
Well,
I've heard stories, and they're not to be repeated on air most of the time.
My wife was in the Navy, so I do have a soft spot for, the white pajamas that there were.
Mr. Goodbar.
Craig, this is it's always a revelation to talk with you and to glean something from your experience and expertise, and we really do appreciate you taking time to come on and share with our group of authors that are getting ready to put a lot of stories out into the world, and we really do appreciate the time that you've given us. Tell folks real quick, where are the best places to find you, and I'll be sure to put all of those in the show notes to make it easy for folks to find you.
CraigMartelle.com. You can see the name on the screen, CraigMartelle.com. Go to Facebook at Successful Indie Author, no spaces, dashes, and that will get you to the Facebook group. Join us, and you'll be there with 8,000 of your fellow authors, all actively looking to do better, level up. That's what we're all about. There are some very experienced authors there, some high earning authors, and there are some brand new authors who haven't published yet. You know what? If you write, you're an author. If you publish and make money, you're a professional author. So treat yourself like it. Understand that it takes a little bit of professional development, but get that learning mindset. You don't have to love the other stuff that you have to do to be an indie author. All you have to do is do it, so you can do the stuff you love, which should be writing. As long as you love writing, you're always going to be able to succeed. Because, hey, I wrote these stories, even if you didn't publish any of them. I've got 10 books that I wrote. Your kids, your grandkids, they're going to read those someday and say, oh my God, Grandma wrote this. That's cool. And there it is. I've got my books. My grandkids have already started reading them. How can you beat that?
You can't. And I'll just a testimony, if you will, for the efficacy of your Facebook group. If you join that Facebook group, become part of the community. Anytime I have a question about something that is changing, or I'm thinking about launching a new book and I'm looking at this or that, I'll go search within that group, and almost always someone has posted a topic about that, because anytime people have success, they go and they share that information, and we keep this knowledge building. And this is the thing about the indie community, is that, like we talked in the very beginning, is that rising tide lifts all boats, and that we're not competing with each other. We're trying to recruit readers that then can sample all of our work. And so anytime we can share that information amongst ourselves, it's a beautiful thing. So go join Craig's group. Do it today. Craig,
as I said during the Revolutionary War, we hang together or we will surely hang alone. So let's not. We all win together, especially as indie authors. Yeah. We all win together. So this is not a competition. It's an opportunity for all of us to do well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for joining us. Abby and I will be back Friday for a Q&A. Just bring, surely this conversation has caused all kind of questions to percolate. Yeah. We're gonna try to dig through those questions on Friday. So join us back here at Standard Podcast Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And Craig, thank you so much for taking time to join us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Peace, fellow humans.